Hello, I'm back because I wanted to share a speech that I did last week. Last week, I went to the Plant Life Journey retreat in South Haven, Michigan. It's a beach town right on Lake Michigan. The retreat happens steps away from the beach, and it's put on at a wonderful woman's house. Her name is Jill Kebb, and her friend Cathy also puts these retreats on with her. And they are the most lovely chefs and just knowledgeable, inspiring people who help people, about 10 at a time, move toward a more plant based lifestyle. So they teach folks how to cook and how to switch over to a plant based lifestyle in a sustainable way. They give so many great tips and tricks, and they give, I think, what is most beneficial from this retreat is a sense of community. I noticed that the retreat goers really seemed to have bonded really well over the last few days. So I got to see them on a Thursday, and they had gotten there on Sunday. So you could just really tell the vibes were high. People were just feeling really positive and happy. So I had a great time. Anyway, I gave a speech just sharing my journey and hopefully giving some tips and inspiration. And so we filmed it, and I'm really glad we did. Yeah, so the angle is a little funny, but it's only because we didn't want the glare from the window that was behind me to completely block my face. So yeah, without much further ado, here is my speech at the Plant Life Journey Retreats. Please check them out. I put a link in my bio for their YouTube channel and their Instagram handle so that you can check out more details if you want to join them. So thanks for watching. And by the way, I don't think I said, my name is Mallory, and I follow a raw vegan lifestyle, and I try to share as much as I can when I can, just to give back to the community. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Enjoy the speech. Hey, I'm Mallory. It's so fun to be here today. It's really fun for me to be around other people who are taking their health into their own hands. It really means that you're taking your life into your own hands, and you'll better be able to accomplish what you intend to within your lifetime. I once heard that our life experiences are not only for us to just experience. They're really meant for us to learn and grow from and to share with others. And I think it gives our life experiences more meaning and purpose. And so thank you for giving my life experiences more meaning and purpose by listening to me today. I hope it adds some value to your week, to your trip here. Just to give you some context right off the bat, I am 35 years old. I'm from Metro Detroit. And I have two kids. I have two boys. One is 2.5 and one is 4.5. And I live up kind of near Holland. And I'm a speech language pathologist. And yeah, I've always been very in touch with the way I feel. I can remember being 13 and going to a fine arts camp for the first time. My first camp away from home for 2 weeks. And I went on long walks through the woods. I slept from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. I ate regular meals. I was not snacking. I was having so much fun doing theater games. I was like meeting peers that I really enjoyed being around. And I was just so excited about the friends I was making. I got to be whoever I wanted with no expectations from who I was before. So I did that for 2 weeks, and then I came home, and I just noticed, like, being back in my original environment, I noticed how different I felt. Just like, wow, I was astonished. And I realized, what's made me feel this way? Being outside, fresh air, regular balanced meals, exercise, being around the right kind of people. And just like sharp, creative, intuitive, so happy and light. So the year prior to camp, I had been through a lot. My best friend had died in a car accident on the way to the catechism class that I also attended. I started my period. I felt like somewhat of an outcast in my school. My mom had to work at night after I came home from school, and I often felt really lonely. And so feeling incredible in my body and mind wasn't such a familiar feeling. And I also grew up like most Midwest kids do, eating home-cooked meals, like cooked with love, and processed snacks. So after I came home from camp, I was on a quest to turn that fleeting feeling into a more permanent one. I started doing Pilates and aerobics. I went for long bike rides. I spent lots of time outside. I took my dance classes seriously. I got a new friend group. I started drinking lots of water. I was always searching for that same feeling, connected to myself, light, full of energy and confidence, and looking to the future. So fast forward to my 20s, because we have to fast forward, because this is a long story. So that deep knowing had still stuck with me, that I could feel a powerful sense of bliss and a calm and centered mind if I just did the right things for my body. I remember trying birth control for 2 years, only to quit it, only because I knew that it made me feel different emotionally. I was used to having highs and lows, and this just made me feel flat. And I just didn't want to feel like that. I knew that wasn't really a helpful way to feel. So I was very in touch with my intuition. In college, I made lots of friends, but one of them happened to be one of the most disciplined, outdoorsy, and active girls in my major. We became roommates for a year, and she taught me the principles of her religion, which was Seventh-day Adventist. So she wasn't a strict vegetarian, but as you may know, many Seventh-day Adventists are, and so she grew up that way. So she had beans and grains as a staple in her diet. So Seventh-day Adventists believe that physical activity helps the body function optimally, reduces stress, enables us to hear the voice of God more clearly. So I remember my roommate even keeping a calendar on our fridge, and she would write down what she did to be active every single day for the whole month. And so as I learned more about vegetarianism and veganism, what I was learning really resonated with me. And I remembered that my mom was a vegetarian for 10 years before she met my dad, of course. So the idea wasn't completely foreign to me. So around the same time, I was taking an anatomy class, and we had a cadaver lab. And I remember realizing that the muscles that we were dissecting looked just like the chicken I had just eaten the night before. And so I started talking about this to others around me. And there was another girl in my major, and she was actually a strict vegetarian. And I remember telling her that I really wanted to be like her, but I felt so I had no idea where to start. I was I think I said something like, I could never do it, but I really want to. And she just looked at me like, you could, and I just didn't. I was like, I don't know how. But I happened to have a bridge card, which is just a card that helps you buy food when you're poor. And so it actually worked at our local health food store that was close to my apartment. So I started buying frozen and packaged vegetarian, vegan items. And I started buying myself books like Alicia Silverstone's The Kind Diet and Kimberly Snyder's Beauty Detox Solution. And then I started making smoothies every day. And this was 12 years ago. And I was still years away from actually becoming a plant-based eater. But I really believed in veganism, but I wasn't ready to completely change yet. So around the time that my husband and I bought our first house and got married, I was experimenting more with juice and smoothies and trying vegan recipes. And I was walking my dog to the beach every night, doing dance cardio workouts, and I was slowly nudging myself to become the healthiest version of me that I could. But don't get me wrong, there were many sides to Mallory at that point. I was also trying every Martha Stewart recipe, and I was baking pies and cakes, and I was occasionally cooking meat for me and my husband or my parents. I remember I had an Easter party for everybody, and I even made a ham, and I made these things that were kind of like croissants. So yeah, so I was even like learning French cooking methods. I learned how to make souffle and things like that. And I was going out for ice cream. So, I was having lots of fun. And then we moved to Columbus, Ohio for my husband's job. And this is where I turned into a foodie because Columbus is a food town. Anybody that goes there or lives there will tell you this. You do? You do? Oh my gosh, cool. We'll have to talk about that after. So I definitely explored all the restaurants. There were always new restaurants opening like practically every weekend. I was obsessed with fun and fancy food, but I was still very into fitness. I was doing intense bar classes and hikes. So for 2.5 years, we lived there, and I just reveled in the fun that is big city America, or big city mid-America, basically. But this is when I actually started having health issues. So I had a miscarriage right after I got pregnant accidentally. I started having panic attacks while I was driving to and from work, where I would show up to my house after work and I would literally just lay on the floor when I got there because I didn't know what else to do. I would even have panic attacks when I was trying to fall asleep at night. And then I started getting bone spurs in my knuckles right here. They're gone now, but I remember an occupational therapist that I worked with who specialized in hands said that they'll never go away. He told me to just live with it. Those will never go away. So also I remember feeling like I could just fall asleep after we would go out for our fun brunches too. And I just knew that wasn't really a good way to live. So it started to hit me that just dabbling in healthy food sometimes wasn't really serving me, and I actually had to stop eating the bad stuff too and quit the habits that were eating away at my nervous system, really. So luckily, we moved back to Holland, Michigan, and I continued to indulge my creativity by cooking new recipes all the time, and I even got a side hustle as a personal chef, just doing gigs on the weekends and some days when I didn't work. So I was really into fun. I was really into it, to fun food. But yoga became a bi-weekly habit, and I became very nerdy about sleep hygiene because I started working at a concussion clinic, and sleep is really important when you have a concussion. And then we made plans to go to Thailand, and we said after that trip, we're going to have a baby. So I started thinking more objectively about my health. Having had the miscarriage, I felt like that was an opportunity for me to really focus and make sure that my nutrition was up to speed with having a healthy baby, preventing disease in my baby, having a good pregnancy too. So before the Thailand trip, I was about 80% vegan, and then right leading up to it, I was 100% vegan, and then in Thailand, it was so easy to be vegan. It was really nice. We stayed in Chiang Mai, and I had a really fun time. There were vegan restaurants, there were Buddhist temples everywhere, so Buddhist people are usually vegetarian or vegan too. So that was really eye-opening to me to be in that world for a little bit. And let's see, so before I move on to the next chapter, I want to read you a quote that I really like by Abraham Hicks. Has anyone ever heard Abraham Hicks? So this one hit me really hard when I heard it. Life causes you to be more, and if you don't just go ahead and be more, that doesn't feel good. So you have to stay up to date on who you are. So after having my first baby, suddenly I didn't look at food quite like the fun activity it was before. It took too much time, too much effort, and at this point, simplicity was really important to me. I was searching for what was the truth. I had always thought to myself, what are we meant to be eating? I had always known that at my core that life can be simple if we let it be. And I started asking these questions, and the universe started to answer. I don't think that God would mean for us to always be thinking about our food. Meal planning, looking for recipes, spending time preparing and cooking our food, instead of just simply playing with our children or spending time outside. Looking for ways to be less distracted from my baby, I deleted my Instagram app off my phone, and that was where I posted all of my fun recipes. I used to call it my Foodstagram. And I stayed off social media for 2 years. But I did still watch YouTube, though, while I got ready for the morning before I had to go to work. While I was doing my makeup real quick, I would watch a YouTube video. And this one video about the 50-50 plate kept popping up on my feed because I was into watching like recipes for vegan food. It wasn't really healthy vegan food. It was just like fun vegan food. But this 50-50 thing kept popping up. And has anyone heard of Plentiful Kiki? So she's a big name in the starch solution world. And so I finally caved and I watched one of her videos. And I just thought, how simple and fun does this all sound? She's a mom, you know, she still gets to eat a ton of food. And so I figured I was already eating my heart out at that point anyway, you know, like sleep deprived, breastfeeding, working. So I thought, well, if I could do that and maybe lose weight and then maybe be vegan, actually, like, and make it easy to be vegan, and just have like a simple type of meal prep, then I'm all for it. So after trying it for only about a month, I remember losing weight so quickly. I was really shocked at how my body changed into what felt like it was just meant to feel like. And so I was 31 at that point, and I felt like I was as like the size of how I was when I was like 21. So I fell in love with the starch solution, and I did that happily for 2 years, and I thought I would do that for 80 more years. I was very gung-ho about it, and it's amazing. And I remember, too, that I was never perfect. I don't think there was a single day that went by that I like messed up and ate something that I wasn't supposed to, but I really didn't sweat it because I knew that consistency is key, and you just go right back into what you were doing. And Kimberly Snyder's saying, she always used to say in her podcast, she would say progress, not perfection. She repeated it so many times. And so I really took that to heart and just repeated it to myself. So through my second pregnancy, I continued following the starch solution for the most part because it was just my default at that point. But also with many trips to Wendy's for chicken sandwiches because, okay. So as I was saying, Wendy's, so when I was in my first trimester of my pregnancy, I remember going to the Wendy's and getting some chicken sandwiches because I just really felt like I needed some dense food to like settle my perpetually empty stomach. I didn't know what else to do. So anyway, so I had this deep knowing, though. I was comforted by the fact that I knew for some reason that after I had my second baby that I would become like this new version of myself. I call it Mallory 2.0. And I know now that your brain literally changes when you're a woman, your brain changes 3 times. When you're in puberty, when you're postpartum, or postpartum and pregnant, and then when you go through menopause too, your brain literally changes. So many of us feel like we're a new person, and that's because we kind of are. Like our brain is literally different. So yeah, I knew in my mind that I would literally transform, and I didn't know how, but I could feel that I was becoming this new person. So my second baby was 3 months old, and I had just gone back to work. So looking back now, I know that I was in a deep postpartum depression, though admitting it at the time would have just made me sink deeper. I was desperate for so many things: for more time with my children, for more energy, for more joy, for more presence, and for clearer thinking. And I needed to be able to sleep 5 hours a night at most, pump milk for a growing boy, have the focus to get my work done as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I worked 2 part-time jobs at the time. I worked at a hospital and a nursing and rehab center. I still needed to be kind to sick people and still be a fun and happy person for my kids and still be a loving wife and still keep myself healthy somehow. So this new desperation really was my rock bottom. Enter Jillian Berry. So this is another YouTuber. Her YouTube videos constantly popped up on my feed while I pumped at work, but I resisted. I had heard years ago about raw veganism, which is what she was speaking about, and I heard that it just was not the way. Alicia Silverstone and Kimberly Snyder had tried it for a year and both said it was not the way. But Jillian had 2 young kids. She barely slept. She was breastfeeding and working. She had energy. She was vibrant. She was happy. She was living her dreams. So I started dipping my toes into raw veganism, also called fruitarianism. I started by eating lots of grapes for 3 days. I ate only grapes. I did that, but at first I only ate grapes for my breakfast, and then I ate potatoes and veggies after that. But I ate grapes instead of my beloved oatmeal. I was very attached to my oatmeal, and I remember feeling like I literally couldn't go to work without having my oatmeal. And now it doesn't even appeal to me whatsoever, and I make it every morning for my children. So I know that it's a very healthy breakfast. But I gradually started adding more and more raw foods to my diet and just trusting that the universe would provide me with the money that I needed to sustain that lifestyle. And that is what happened. And then 2.5 years later, I'm about 95% raw vegan, and I've gone long stretches of 30 plus days fully raw. And I'm not telling you this to encourage you to go raw vegan, but I'm just informing you that is an option if you ever choose to take that step in the future, or even to like dabble in it. You know, there's such thing as raw till 4. Some people do. There's something called raw till 4, which means that you eat raw until 4 p.m. and then you just eat whatever you were going to eat for dinner. So raw veganism enhances your spirituality, your mental clarity, and just your minute-to-minute experience of life. But I believe so does a whole food plant-based diet, especially when you're coming from a more standard American diet or even unhealthy vegan diet. So my journey to where I am now really was a slow one, as you can, gather from all of my little stories. I think that the moral of my own story really is to just stay on the path. If I hadn't identified as a healthy person or a person interested in true health, I wouldn't have even begun this journey and found out all of the things I know now. You really have to stay open to learning and changing, and remind your loved ones that it's important to you that you continue to grow and change as life goes on together. I don't think that we stop maturing and changing when we're 25 years old. Maturing and changing emotionally when we're 25 years old is what I meant to say. I think that if we're lucky enough to live to be 70, 80, 90, 100, I think that all of those stages of the mind are meant to have their own evolution. And I think that a lot of people are blind to this and don't acknowledge this in themselves, so they might have resistance to it. And it's not talked about enough, but I feel that humans within the same decade are capable of very similar emotional experiences. Some humans might get stuck in one emotional stage, though, if they have some kind of trauma in that stage. This is a whole nother topic, but your emotional life cannot be overlooked in the big picture of health. What also gets forgotten is the impact that your sleep and your stress have on your food choices. So never let these big factors escape your mind. What motivates me the most by far is the way I currently feel and the way I'll feel tomorrow. I don't think that many people realize the way that they could feel. I think you really need to live these experiences to find out for yourself how you could feel. Lots of us are motivated by a number that a physician gave us, or by reducing or reversing a disease, or reducing your risk for a disease, etc. And those are all good, but your day-to-day experiences being more bright and meaningful will really get you to choose the salad over the fun foods. What I think of as my day-to-day experience is the thoughts that flow through my mind, the sensations that flow through me, the way I process emotions, the ideas that come to me, the way my tone of voice comes across to my loved ones, the zest that I have for life. That's what I'm talking about when I say the way I feel. You can watch numbers and listen to all of the podcasts, but there really is no denying feeling years younger in the moment, internally, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Always be aware and keep trying to enhance your awareness of yourself and how you're feeling. If you're doing that, you'll always be on the path, even though some days you might not feel like it. Just because you're not following your plan perfectly doesn't mean that you're not on the path. Identify as a healthy person, and you will usually tend to make decisions that align with health. By the way, how will you know when you're really healthy? It's when you don't get sick from viruses anymore. That's a big one. And then when the alarm systems of your body are really sensitive, so that when you start to do things that maybe you felt fine doing before, but all of a sudden your body's having a really quick reaction to now, that's a really good sign. It means that the alarm systems of your body are really working well, and they're able to let you know quickly that your body doesn't like you to do that anymore. And so just remember that, others walking around might not have that same alarm system, so they might not be able to relate to the way that you feel when you say, for example, like, I want to have the gluten-free one, people might give you a hard time for that, but they don't really understand, like, maybe their alarm systems aren't working as well. Also, I must admit, as I mentioned earlier, that I work at a skilled nursing and rehab facility, so that is a huge motivator for me Monday through Friday. Every day, Monday through Friday, I walk in the doors and I'm reminded of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm reminded why I just spent an hour that morning prepping all of my food and hauling it in a big backpack to work. So the patients that we see all have some type of chronic illness that could be reversed or even prevented with change in their lifestyle, in their diet mostly. And as we know, nearly every type of disease begins in the gut, and I see evidence of this every day that I work when I read charts. And then I go meet the people, and then I see what their eating habits are. 9 out of 10 patients who are admitted to my work have GERD, which is just reflux, which is just more evidence to me that all diseases begin in the gut. And I should explain a little bit why I am looking for GERD and reflux. Speech pathologists, mainly in those kind of settings, like in hospitals and nursing homes, we do therapy that is cognitive therapy. So we're assessing a person's cognition, and then we're giving them tips and trying to make their cognition better if that's possible. And then we also do swallowing therapy. So that's like half of my job is assessing a person's swallow, helping them have a better swallow. And so a speech therapist is meant to look at this and this part of the swallow, but then we also end up dealing with the esophagus. And pretty much all of my patients have some kind of, they say they have a swallowing issue or they're choking, but really their esophagus is just no longer functioning because they've had GERD for years and years and years. So I'm like doing swallowing therapy with people who have esophageal issues, but really a speech therapist, we kind of are supposed to dabble in that and help give tips and things. But really the esophagus is just part of the digestive system. So then I end up I can't help it, and I start to give them information about digestion and that. So that's like every single day that I'm at work, I'm talking about that kind of thing too, and I'm hearing all these complaints and how horrible it can be. So anyway, just wanted to explain that a little bit more. I mentioned cognitive therapy. So it's very clear that the majority of people who live with chronic illness for years, they end up having some type of cognitive impairment. And I see what it's really like to live with cognitive impairment or chronic illness. And I can tell you that it is not fun. And this brings me to my last point. Choose your hard. So it's hard to change our eating habits. Yes, it's very hard in the moment. But mostly it's only hard in the beginning, and then it starts to get fun as you keep going. That's why you got to just keep going. So it gets easier, it gets more fun. And it's a good type of hard. It's like a type of hard that can be like a game that you're playing with yourself. But the type of hard that patients experience when they're faced with health problems, though, that's a type of hard that starts to feel out of your control. It doesn't feel like a game anymore. It just feels like you're being tortured. So it usually takes over your mental space with pain or confusion or both, which is not conducive to finding your way out of whatever is ailing you. We need our own mental sharpness and intuition to find our way out of health problems, because we cannot always find the real solutions without doing our own research and our own thinking. So what people think is hard is eating healthy, but what's actually hard is to not feel well in your body. How can we expect our souls to want to stay here in our bodies and live out life the way we were meant to if it doesn't feel good to be in our bodies? Okay, so this is a lot of advice, but I just wanted to give it all to you guys. Also, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. A lot of us like to have some event coming up that will motivate us to get healthier, maybe like a wedding or vacation, and I definitely use those too. But what about the things that are coming in your future that you don't even know are coming? Like the things that come out of the blue, those good experiences. And that's what life includes usually, is like good experiences that just spontaneously happen. Don't you want to be your best self for those? And don't you want to be your healthy, pain-free self when someone you love needs you to be their caregiver, or to have extra energy just to help them with something hard? And don't you want to have the mental clarity to predict when something's going to be hard for somebody too? So, and also remember to honor where you're at. Don't judge yourself. Look at your life situation and current behaviors objectively. I like to pretend like I'm looking down on myself, like from a little helicopter, and like I'm not me, I'm just somebody that's very compassionate looking at myself, and I say, oh, look, like she's in this environment, of course she's gonna choose the cookie right now, like, you know, she can't blame herself, you know. I really like to take like a big picture stance in order to stop judging myself. So when you mess up, just say, of course I ate that thing, that situation really stressed me out, and I didn't even have a plan. And I didn't have a way of managing the stress, and I was really hungry. And then just get right back into what you know works for you. And when you go off plan, or as I actually call it having a relapse, because I think that when you're changing the way you eat, you're expected to have relapses. Just like anyone who's addicted to anything is expected to have a relapse. And I really think that they happen, and then they start to get farther and farther apart, and then they start to get less and less dramatic, and I've really found that to be true for me. So look forward to that. It gets a little easier. But also, I just want to say, when you have a relapse, congratulations. It means that you're trying. You can't have a relapse from something if you weren't even starting to try to do something different in the first place. And as they say, you can't fall off a wagon if you weren't even on it to begin with. So awesome for you for falling off the wagon. But also, don't judge others either. And I know that their life would be so much easier if they just went whole food plant-based. But just be an example. Seriously, just be an example. Just be the best version of yourself. Be a shining example. They see what you're doing. Usually they see it, and they know what you're not doing too. You don't even have to talk about it. Just be the most joyful, sexy, energetic, and kind version of yourself that you can. Not just to be an example for others, but just because that's what you were put on this earth to be. And that's it. Thanks, guys. That was so fun. But the even more fun part is answering questions, and just like talking. So please ask away. Anything.
Well, I'm sure that there is more, by the way.
And I really like it was cool. It must have been a bike or something.
There's something to
Oh,
like. We can, if anyone just explain what you eat in a day.
Okay. All right. Okay, so what I eat now is so different from what I ate in a day like 4 years ago. So take that, into consideration. But so I wake up at like 5:30 usually because I have 2 kids and I have to get ready for work and get them to school, to daycare. And so I usually eat melon while I'm chopping melon for them. So that happens at like 7 a.m. And I know that melon is super great to eat on an empty stomach. It helps build hydrochloric acid, so it just helps you feel awesome and helps you digest your food better. So I try to eat melon on an empty stomach at like 7 a.m. And if I don't, then I try to eat some kind of juice. Like if I got to chance to make green juice or celery juice, because I know that does the same thing. So something really hydrating. Before I do that, I usually drink a 32-ounce glass of lime water. Just water with lime juice.
Oh, and how much?
32 ounces.
Is that different than lemon water for some reason?
I like the taste better, but I did lemon water for like 10 years. So lemon water is awesome too. For some reason, I don't know why lime like resonates with me right now. It must be like certain minerals in it. I have no idea, but I'm really into lime water.
Squeeze fresh or?
Yep, I just squeeze it fresh. Yep, I just get a bunch of limes at Sam's Club, and they stay pretty good for a while, and then they get hard as rocks. But a few of them always go bad. But yeah, so I do that. 32 ounces of lime water in the morning, and then when I'm ready, I'll like have some melon. There's some days where I'm not hungry yet, and then I know that it's probably because maybe I'm fighting a virus that my kids picked up from school. Like I just try to really listen to what I'm actually when I'm hungry. But and then you guys are just gonna fall off your chairs from this one. But for my breakfast at like 9 o'clock, I eat banana and ice cream, and it's usually like 7 to 8 frozen bananas blended in my Vitamix. It's a lot of bananas for people to wrap their head around, but.
7 to 8?
Mm-hmm. So I blend it. So in order for it to be like ice cream, you don't put water in it. So usually I'll put like a dash of vanilla, or if I try to make it flavored, I'll add other stuff. Like sometimes I'll put like fresh mint in there, and then sometimes I'll put carob powder because I try not to eat too much chocolate. And yeah, so the reason I do that is because I usually start work at 9:30, and then I just feel kind of weird if I'm like eating all morning at work, which I did used to do before I figured out this ice cream thing. So then at like 1, so that keeps me super full and happy.
Bananas and vanilla.
Yeah.
And they blend into you don't need
Yeah,
anything
you need a Vitamix. Yeah, it needs to be like a high-speed blender though, like a blender with a motor, you know? So I actually let them thaw for 30 minutes, and then I blend them on the lowest setting just with a tamper, and then it starts to eventually, turn into an ice cream. You don't want to blend it too long because it won't be as sweet.
Yeah, but do you have a sweet spot on your banana, like how green?
Oh, super important for it to have spots for me. Yeah, because then it's, oh, for sure. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
before you
Yeah.
take the peel off.
Yeah, before you peel it and freeze it. Yeah. So like every night before bed, I put bananas in the freezer. But you have to have like a really good banana game for this. You have to have like 30 bananas in your house at a time. You have to have bananas at every stage. And then if I start to get low, I have to go to the place where I know they'll have ripe bananas, So yeah.
Nice because they're so affordable.
Right. That's the really cool thing and they're actually like they're like the secret that, like if you talk to people who are raw vegan, you hear like eventually if they've done it for enough years, they learn that actually they need to eat like a ton of bananas. Like bananas are, I swear, they must be different from other fruits, like in their starch, like I think the starch maybe, like I know the starch switches over to something else when they're ripe, but I feel like there's something to bananas that makes you like extra satisfied. And so that was just amazing to me because staying full from 9:30 till like 1:30 at least, and even like at 1:30 I'm not that hungry. I'm just like it would sound fun to eat right now, so then I will find something to eat, But yeah, definitely like the more bananas I eat, I swear that the smaller my stomach is. Like it's crazy. It's just like wild to me. But the same thing happened with the starch solution. It was like the more potatoes I ate, the easier it was to lose weight. Not that losing weight is important, as you know, like my motivating factor is just how I feel and like the way my personality comes across and everything like that. Because this isn't like the way that I always was. Like I don't, think that my personality was like this like 5 years ago. So, yeah. But oh yeah. So lunch is usually a bunch of fruit. So I'll bring like more melon or berries or apples, because it's summer right now, it's different. Like I definitely eat seasonally too. So then I'm eating a lot of fruit until like 4 o'clock. Because I feel like between 2 and 4, I just feel like snacking because there's a lot of paperwork for me to do. I really think it just depends like what you're doing all day, you know what I mean? Like you don't need to structure your eating like anybody else's because nobody else is going to have the like activity level that you have. And I think a lot of people forget that like your brain takes so much energy. So if you have a job or just like a vocation, it doesn't even have to be a job, but just like if your day-to-day life requires a lot of mental energy or like a lot of emotional energy, that requires a lot of calories really to fuel. So anyway, and then at like 5:30, I'm home making dinner for my kids, and my husband just fends for himself, honestly. And then maybe like once a week I'll make him something, but and then I make a big salad, and my salad is like really big, and I love it. And sometimes I'll be snacking on fruit while I'll have another banana. And my salad is just like usually a tender leafy green, and then like a cruciferous leafy green, and then just usually tomatoes and onions and avocado, and then I'll make a dressing out of like either nuts or seeds that I soaked the day before and blended with like dates and spices and sun-dried tomatoes, or I'll take coconut yogurt that I already bought from the store and I'll just mix it with lemon juice and spices, and that's my salad dressing, and I love it so much. And then I try really hard not to eat after 7. I even have a little alarm on my phone that says like, you're done eating at 7, or yeah, I think that's what it says. And so I try to stick to that because it definitely feels awesome to sleep, like, because I try to go to bed by 10. It feels great to sleep after not eating for 3 hours. So. But that doesn't always work out. I mean, sometimes I eat something crazy, especially if I'm really tired, but I know I have to do the dishes, then I'll like eat some dates or something, and, because I'm like, I still need energy and tired, but I got to do this, so. Yeah.
I did the raw for 21 days.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
And I felt changes also in my sleep, my dreams, my mood, my creativity. I mean, I resonate with some of the things you're saying, and I started to just see the simplicity and the hydration. And I was never had a craving. There's a lot of good, but I cannot wrap my head around like letting go of cooked foods. I'm very emotionally attached to cooked foods, and that's like it's another level to talk to and know someone like you.
Yeah.
And I've watched many of the Jillian Berry videos, and I find them extremely interesting and motivating because so many people are on different paths, but
Yeah.
predominantly they're all eating more raw, in her interviews, in one way or another.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's more like the emotional, like, did you go through a period where, like, you can look at this pasta and not be like, hey, that looks good, I missed that.
Totally.
And it seems boring. Like,
Yes, it sounds boring.
I felt bored. I felt bored
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
However, some of it is mental. I think a lot of it's mental. Because like when I gave up meat and chicken too, well, I thought that was like a whole new world of spices, and I thought it was like a little bit exciting because I was like I had to try new things and new cuisines and stuff.
Yeah.
But now with raw, you're kind of like, just getting down to basics, and I guess my question is,
Yeah.
And Jill can't see you, so.
I like the idea of raw till 4, and I
Totally. Yeah.
I'm gonna sort of try that, but.
Yeah.
How do you think people get over the emotional aspect of, and also socially? I think socially it's a next level. I mean, I bring my dressing, so I can have a salad, and I did that a lot, but it's like,
Yeah.
I think partly it's because I'm thinking too far ahead.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you guessed it. Yeah, I think you're like,
I'm
Yeah.
already worried about like tomorrow, but if I
Right.
stay on the day and I just eat raw, like I was like,
And you're
yes,
perfectly
I felt
happy.
nourished and all these good things.
Yeah. I think a big piece of when you are going more raw, it starts to open up space for you to think about what your primary food in life is. And I think, so I heard this concept of primary food, and I was like, whoa, I never heard it before. And this was from a starch solution girl named Healthy Emmy. So she talked about how our primary food shouldn't be our actual food. It should be the things that we're doing in our day-to-day life that like bring us joy. And it hit me hard because at the time in like a postpartum depression, I was like, this is my joy, is like eating food, you know. And so yeah, so I think it kind of forces you to think about like how to get joy from other things in life. But it is really hard when you're such a good cook and you find so much joy in cooking, you know. And so yeah, that's kind of, I think it like brings, I think it's like a cool thing that it like kind of brings up, it digs up like your internal like mental stuff, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize like how like attached I was to cooked food, which is, I think it's okay to eat some cooked food. I'm not all raw, like I'll just randomly be like, oh, I feel like trying a couple bites of this, couple bites of that. But it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't appeal to me like to eat a whole bowl of something anymore, because I'm just like, oh, like I think I just remember the way it makes me feel. But I definitely in the beginning was like my husband would still eat like the rice and veggies, and I'd be like eating a salad instead, and I would be like, that actually looks really good, like the rice looks so good to me right now, because my husband kind of went along with my starch solution thing, and just ate what I was making. So yeah, I don't know, I hope that answers it a little bit.
I guess like when you went wrong, you think this is
Yeah, I think I was just saying like, well, let me just try this. Yeah, and then I think when I got far enough in it, I was like, how do I go back if I like know how I feel? Like like so hydrated, I think is like a life-changing thing when you feel what it feels like to actually be hydrated for once. Like, because to me, cooked food is dry food. Like everything just seems dry to me. And I don't even really like dehydrated stuff too much, but in the beginning I definitely needed like dehydrated kale chips because I needed like crunchy stuff when I was at work and stressed out.
I see your
Yeah.
Instagram. You'll just eat like carrots and peppers and celery and
Yeah,
pork.
that's my crunchy.
Oranges and apples.
Yeah.
It's just so simple.
Yeah. And I think I'm lucky in that like my life circumstance like doesn't allow me space to cook, you know? Because I did used to love to be like, look what I made, everybody, and like bring stuff to work or like give something to my mom and like cook something for like cook black bean burgers for me and my husband. Like I used to love to be like, look at this thing I made and it's plant-based, everybody, you know? And I think that's fun too, but then I think I just personally am forced to like not even have time to do that. So yeah, and I think I just am like, well, I really want to just play outside tonight after I make my dinner, you know, with my kids. I just want to like go do that stuff. So I think that helps. Like, I think that helps me, but yeah. Yeah, I do. Definitely, yeah. I try not to eat them during the day because I notice that it makes me feel more sluggish. Because, like, once I start eating, like, an overt fat, then I, like, still want more the rest of the day. So if I start eating walnuts at, like, 3 o'clock, then I'm like, bring on, like, more things like that, you know? And I definitely, but I think, like, it's okay to just, like, eat more fat to just see how it actually feels, and then realize like, oh, I actually don't like the way that feels, and then you really are like motivated to not. But I do eat fat. Like last night, I had a whole half of an avocado in my salad, and you know the coconut yogurt dressing, and yeah, I'll grab some walnuts out of the fridge.
I thought you were like 12 years old.
Oh my god. I feel like I have a young face, but then I think like I wish I could just show you pictures of me from like 6 years ago, because I don't think I really looked like this young. Like I think I kind of looked young, but not like I do now. Yeah, I know my face is kind of red right now, but aw, thanks. So he goes through phases for sure. He was very much like not for it in the beginning because he was like, can't we just all eat the same thing? And he definitely didn't like it, but I didn't know like how else to be. Like I honestly was like, this is what I need. And I think he did like let me be me because he knew like how I just wasn't like how I was supposed to feel mentally. Like he could just tell that I was not right mentally. Like nothing dramatic ever happened, but he just knew like that's not normal Mallory because we met each other when I was 17 and he was 18. We were in the dorms in college together, so like he knows how I'm supposed to be, I think. And but so I think I'm just so glad that he like for the most part like honors what I think he just trusts me to do what I think I have to do for myself. But yeah. No, my gosh. So like at home, he doesn't really cook. He doesn't cook meat. I know, for real. You're so great for being here. Props to you. No, he will eat whatever. Like if we go to a restaurant, he'll just have a burger. Like he just has whatever he feels like he wants. But he definitely, like literally every time he eats meat, he feels like crap the next day. But he still did. I mean, he still did it like this weekend, and then he goes to me and he's like, "Oh my God, like my stomach," and I'm like, "Okay, you know." But I don't give him a hard time about it because like I used to eat meat. Like who am I to, you know what I mean? So that's basically what I think about. Like if I go back to my brain, 15 years ago and somebody tried to give me a hard time about what I was eating, I wouldn't be into the conversation. I would be like, well, what I'm doing feels good to me right now. So, and I think it's hard just being like a young man and like every other young man around him is eating that stuff. So, I don't know. But it's hard because like he gets sick really easily and then he's out for like a few days or like his back is, goes out and I just love him. I don't know.
You needed support group when you first went and started talking to
Yes. So I think I had this like imaginary group of friends that like on YouTube because I wasn't even on Instagram at first. And so I kind of, I don't know, I was like kind of mentally weird. So I would just feel like they were my friends, like the people that I watched on YouTube. Like I just kind of felt like connected to them that way. So that helped. And then, but now, so like, how long ago? Like 2 years ago, I like started an Instagram and started friending other raw vegans. And now I have like several that are like, there's a couple people that like are pretty popular in the raw vegan community. And they will like message me like a couple times, like we're like actual friends now. So yeah, so it feels way less lonely. Like the raw intuition guy, Matt, he's in the Midwest. So he is in Minnesota. So he like, I don't know, he's friendly. Yeah, there's a girl called Is Bubblegum Raw, and she's really hilarious, and we talk to each other all the time. And I don't, I haven't messaged with her, but yeah. My friend Tessa lives in Boston. I don't know. We like, and then Stephanie from Sunbaked Vegan, like she and I we voice message each other. Me and Tessa do too. So we like literally will like send long messages like we're talking on the phone. So. I think it's super important just because like you just have to again look at yourself objectively, like you are a human. It doesn't matter like if your personality is so like stoic and don't need people like in your normal life, but like when you're doing something weird, it definitely helps to, especially if I think that my personality is like okay with being a little weird. But if your personality is like I do not like being the oddball, like that is even more important, I think. Yeah, I think you have to be like holistic about it and think about your whole picture and like where you're coming from and yeah. I think a huge benefit because so that's where the enzymes are. So like enzymes are what help break down your food, and if you think about like what God gave us to eat, it really is like fruits and veggies and greens because He designed it for us, so that is where Like it's got this pretty little package with the enzymes, the phytonutrients, and the fiber and the hydration. Oh yeah, I love her. Oh, all the time. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, yeah, she's even. She did. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she's an amazing person. Yeah, I think she's an amazing person, and I think I think part of the thing that inspires me the most about these raw vegans is like their brains. Like they literally are like, they just are so quick to like think. They like remember all the things they want to say. They're very like inspirational. They're like they can connect all of these ideas like in the drop of a hat, and I think that's like the big thing for me is like I don't know, like it just shows like the potential of a human, and I'm like, well, I need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be like that sharp. And then I get inspired too because in Holland, I feel like there are quite a lot of people that, well, everywhere, but I do meet a lot of like pretty healthy people who are like 90s. Like I met a lady today who's 97. There's a lady that lives at my place that is 103, and like they're doing pretty good. And so I think I'm inspired by them because I think like, well, if they're doing pretty good and they're kind of eating just like normal food, then I could probably have a really pretty good quality of life when I'm like 90 too, so, or 100, you know, who knows? So it just, yeah, they inspire me a lot, like meeting people who are older. Yeah. I don't know. And I think when I was super pregnant both times, I just hated feeling not so like I felt like pain in my joints and I just was like, oh, it really sucks to not feel good in my body, and I think that motivates me too because I'm like I just remember, and then being around people who don't feel good motivates me. Yeah.
So this is kind of subsequent to the
Oh yeah.
So where can I go up here?
Up here, yeah.
Or Holland?
Holland, yeah. So my favorite place to get a salad is New Holland Brewery. So they have this salad that has like really good, the greens, the quality of the greens are always so good. And so it's called like the apple walnut salad. So it's got a ton of walnuts and apples. It used to have grapes, but sadly they changed it to dried cherries. So I don't get those because, I don't know, it's just too sweet and they stick to my teeth and stuff. But I add avocado. A lot of restaurants you can add avocado. Like I just did that recently. I forget. Oh, it was at the Butler in Saugatuck. I had like the most amazing salad. And I just was like, can you add avocado? And they said, oh yeah, you know, because you see avocado on their menu and you're like, I know you got avocado. So don't hold it back. I do a lot. I don't always. So when I'm out at restaurants, sometimes I just like have the dressing that has the oil and who the heck knows. But sometimes I'm really like surprised. Like the one at the Butler, the dressing was like an orange something dressing, and it literally had orange in it. Like you could see the pulp. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad I got the dressing because it made the salad. Like it was amazing. And that salad was actually mostly cucumber. It was so good. It wasn't actually greens. I didn't realize it wasn't like a greens salad. And so I think if you just order this, just like when you're ordering in the moment, I think it's hard because you're like, there's no going back. I'm ordering this and I know everybody's going to have this stuff in front of me and then I'm going to be sitting here with my salad. But just like take the plunge and pretend like you're doing an ice water plunge, and just be like, I'm getting the salad, I'm making myself do it. And then I think you'll be so happy, like when you get home and you're like, wow, I feel awesome still. You know, I feel like I could go for a run. I really don't, because I think because I like embrace the whole lifestyle, you know. So yeah, to me it's super exciting. Like I'm so excited to eat my banana and ice cream tomorrow. And like, right, it's so good, especially right now in the summer. And it's like, it's so good, man. Oh my God, you did? Oh, wow. Wow. Oh my God.
To think that you could eat that
I feel great about it. It changed.
Cut that up in a bowl if there's 7 or 8 bananas.
Right. It's big.
Like,
That's big. I I have a big Yeti, and it's more than that Yeti. So it's like the Yeti, and then I have like a little mini, it's like a coffee thing, but it keeps it cold, So it fills that, and then yeah. But it's so exciting to be like, I can eat this whole thing, feel awesome. I swear to God, my stomach is skinnier the next day. Like, it's great. Again, not that that's the most important thing, but it's cool. So.
you have a window, like, we do have a question, anybody? I mean, do you think pineapple has any magical?
I think so, yeah. So I noticed, so you probably know about like I think it's bromelain? Or, yeah, something like that. So it definitely, so I've heard that it helps reduce so many things, but it breaks up mucus basically. And I don't know if it's my imagination, but I've heard that it helps reduce floaters in your eyes. Like on a really like bright day, if you just stare in one spot, you can see like the little floaters going like that. I see more of them when I eat a ton of pineapple. Like I'll eat a ton of pineapple that morning, and I swear to God, there's more. And I think they're just being like released. Yeah, I think it's a good thing because I think they're just being like. Well, I mean, it's not a good thing to have like big ones that are, that's just cataracts. But just kidding.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So is there any fruit that you don't eat? Just curious.
I can't think. That's such a good question. I don't think so. No, I think I eat every fruit.
Yeah, I have this thing.
You try to get the odd ones,
Like try to change it up, or
yeah, try to
yeah.
get some variety of weird fruits that we don't normally get here in the Midwest.
Yeah, I do. I eat papaya a lot. So there's a place in Holland on the south side that has really good organic papaya, and it usually ripens really well. And I swear one of them tasted like cappuccino one day. It was just mind blowing. And then I brought some. That was actually we were having brunch at New Holland, or no, at the place next to New Holland at Hops. We were having brunch at Hops that morning, and I brought some for my mom and my cousin to try because I just wanted somebody else to. I made my husband try it, but he was like, "Oh yeah," but his taste buds I think are not that good. But my mom and especially my cousin was like, "Oh my God, like what? This does taste like cappuccino." So it is really fun to like try new. That's another thing. Like when people say, "Is it boring?" I'm like, "How could it be boring? It's so exciting when I try a new fruit." And then it's really exciting when you're like, "Oh, like apples are coming into season." It's just fun to think about like what's going to come into season, and you just look forward to that because, yeah.
I wondered, I'm sorry, but like some fruit is like the perfect package and stuff.
It is.
Like a selling point, right?
Yeah, you literally could just eat fruit all day and you'd be super healthy, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that like literally just eat fruit for the most part and don't even eat salads. And I feel like I can't do that because I probably don't get the most like high quality fruit that they do. But there are some people that do that, and they are like very, very healthy and thriving. Yeah, they're like so energetic and.
What is the worst social situation like, or if someone ever said anything really annoying you, like, or challenged you in a way that it was difficult? A family member maybe, or...
I can't think of a specific time, but like at work a lot, like coworkers will come up to me, and it doesn't bother me at all. I actually look forward to the question, but like they'll ask, where do you get your protein? And it might be good to talk about because you guys might get asked if you try to eat more plant-based. So it might be good to just clear the air and like give some good responses. So can I just tell them like how I respond?
You don't stay in the cult.
It does. Right? So I now, like when I first was answering this a long time ago, I would be like defensive and annoyed with it. But now I actually really like it because I think that somewhere deep inside that person, they know that the protein myth is wrong. It's kind of like when you're brainwashed and you kind of wonder like, is that really right? So you're just kind of trying to figure it out all the time, you know? So when they come across somebody that's like challenging the thing that they were like brainwashed into, they're like, hey, what do you think of it? You know, it's kind of like, I feel like it's like that. So I just try to let them know. I say that I know like our culture is really worried about protein. But if you think about it, I think that our culture should be more worried about hydration in our food and fiber in our food, because as you, like most people know, like just the average American knows that we don't get enough fiber and we're not hydrated enough. I think like most people are aware of that. And then I say like, I've never really heard of anybody not getting enough protein. Like maybe they think they're not, maybe they say it out loud, but like nobody's saying like, oh, it's because you didn't get enough protein. And then I also tell them that there is protein in every whole plant food, and it's in the perfect amount for us. And then I give them the example of breast milk. So when I say breast milk was designed for humans, right? Because it's from a human to a human, and babies live only on breast milk until they're 5 months old, hopefully. And breast milk is about 1 to 5% protein, and it's like 4% fat, and then the rest is carbohydrates, like lactose. And so why would it be important for us to eat foods that are mostly protein and no fiber? Like if you eat meat, you don't get the fiber or the hydration, you just get all the stress and I really think the protein thing is just a myth that we've been brainwashed into so that we will eat meat and dairy and eggs. I really think that, I feel like there's another point that I usually make, but I can't think of it right now. But that usually gets people to go like, oh, and I just say it, make sure to say it in a tone of voice that's just like, hey, I'm just letting you know this perspective, not like, oh, I can't believe you would ask me that, you know? I just think they're just kind of like wondering if they've been brainwashed. Yeah, I've said, well, I get the same, I'm like, I get the same amount, like, percentage of protein as, like, a rhino gets. I don't know, like, I had somebody, I had a really well-intended, like, friend who's also a mom say to me, like, I just think everybody's different, just we all need different diets. And I was like, well, you wouldn't go to a zoo and say, like, this rhino needs this kind of food and this rhino needs this kind of, like, no, a zookeeper knows that they all need the same kind of food. And we're just like another species, you know. Yeah.
Like people say they need protein, or people that want to say I need
Yeah.
protein. But really our bodies just need amino acids.
Right.
Is that like when you say protein is food?
Yep, I'll say there are amino acids in all foods.
We really just put amino acids to work in our body.
Right, yeah, we turn it into protein.
Usually break down into amino acids.
Right.
So they're all the colors.
Something like that. But no, I think, right. Yeah. Right, yeah. It takes more energy to break down and use it. Yeah, like sure, we can use the protein from meat if we really need to, but it takes more energy to break down. And I also think of like the way that our like mental states probably are when we're eating meat versus when we're eating fruits and veggies, because I think that like if like in the history of humans, if we were eating meat, it's because we had to survive, and we were not in an environment at the time that was like a thriving, awesome environment where we could just relax in. We were probably like migrating or doing something difficult, and we were forced to eat meat. And I think when given the choice, we're going to eat the fruit because it looks so pretty, and like the dead cow doesn't look pretty. And so I think that puts us in like a mental. I think when we're eating meat, I think we're more likely to be in that like survival mode. Like I think our nervous system is going to be more in the like fight or flight, like stressed out mode. And then I think when we eat fruit and veggies, I think it just lets our nervous system know like you can relax and you can thrive, and your soul can be like integrated with your presence on the earth, you know, not like, oh, like, I don't know. Like if you're in a fight or flight, your soul is kind of like, I'm out of here. Like, I don't need to be doing this right now. I don't know. Yeah. Which is good. I have, my water bottle is somewhere, but it's like probably that size. And I drink 2 of those at work, and then I drink 1 32-ounce. So not so much water. Like it's not like so much water because I get so much water from like the, and then if it's like melon season, then I don't drink maybe I won't even drink the 3rd, bottle because, yeah, it feels so hydrating. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few kids. Ronnie is the one that actually has
I know.
Zeno.
I love it. Thank you guys. It's so fun to be here. About 2.5 years. Wait, yeah, like 2.5 years because my baby is 2.5. So yeah, about 2.5 years.